That's CKB tradition. I don't even know how that started, but I just know whose team I'm on.
So there's nothing specifically personal, Monster.
I just don't even know. I don't even know what that's about, brother. I don't know about Israel. If Israel doesn't like the Cobb, I don't like the Cobb. That's been a good teammate.
Well, Dan, it's obviously been a while since we've got to see you fight in this part of the world. So I guess how excited are you to be in Australia? Not obviously not home for you, but closer than Las Vegas or Milwaukee or any of these other places you've had to fight.
Yeah, just listening to everyone cry about how far they had to come. It's just funny to me because it's like I have to do that every single time. So there's the sympathy. The sympathy tank here is absolutely empty, boys. Like I've had to fly to England, which is twice as far away as this. So yeah, there's no real sympathy there, but it's cool to drag it down to this side of the world. Perth's crowd last time I was here was absolutely wild. They blew the roof off the place, and I'm expecting the same thing come this fight.
It's obviously been a while since we've got to see you fight. You've had fights booked, but you had to pull out.
I've had fights, just not in the UFC, brother.
So I guess physically, how are you feeling headed into this one?
Nah, I feel good. Body's at 100%. Yeah, just everything I feel like has come together in the last year. So I'm just looking to showcase that all.
Well, besides getting tattoos, how'd you spend your time?
Oh, that did take up a majority of my time. Yeah, getting tattoos, but I have actually been in the gym. Contrary to popular belief, when you're injured doesn't mean you stop training altogether, or you'd probably never get anything done. So I have been in the gym. I have had a camp in there, mixed in there. I was only like a week out from the Bobby Green one, 2 weeks out. That was like my second to last sparring session when I re-broke my arm. So I have had like a full training camp in there, even though I didn't get to go out there and put on a show for everyone. But yeah, I'm just excited.
And they matched you up with Gamrot. Do you like this matchup, or were you hoping for someone else?
I love it, brother. I love that sexy little number he's got next to his name. That's what I'm coming for.
Did you have to bring in anyone specific for this? Because his last few fights are very grappling heavy.
Yeah, it's just been a pest of a training camp, really. Just everyone diving at your legs for the past 6 weeks. I can't say it's the most fun I've ever had, but getting hit in the head a lot less is probably it's not bad. It's not bad.
So are you hoping you beat him, you get his number, and then all these names that I feel like you've been calling for the last several years now, they might be forced to take that fight?
Oh, they'll have to, brother. They'll have to. That completely changes the direction. Like a lot of the big names in the division are all coming off losses. Oliveira, Poirier, Gagey, Chandler, like all of these guys are gonna want something I have, which is gonna be a 3-fight win streak.
You've been in the UFC for 10 years now. I think coming either relatively soon or within the next few months. And back then it was guys like you and James DeHuna and Mark Hunt, and you're the kind of the last one standing from that part of the world with this new generation. So do you feel like a veteran in this sport in the UFC, or do you still feel like you're like the young guy, like fighting and making a name for himself?
Yeah, I feel like I did get into the UFC very young. Like I was only I think I just turned 24 when I first got into the UFC, and I was not a well-developed fighter by any means in the imagination. So yeah, I've had to do my development in the big show. I've had to do my development against the best guys in the world, and you're obviously like trying new things. Like some fights I'm like completely southpaw, some fights I'm orthodox, some fights I'm wrestling, some fights like all of these tools I've just been. But you've got no choice. If I would have just got into the UFC and stayed I was like a forward pressure fighter that would wear you out, come forward and fight you on the inside, which is the dumbest move humanly possible as a 6 foot tall lightweight. So I've just constantly been working on things, and I feel like everything's just coming together now where I can showcase a finished product. I feel like I just got good in the last year, so it's like, well, I'm gonna quit now when I just got good. Doesn't make any sense.
So do you watch your old fights and you're just like, oh no,
dumbass? If I watch some old fights and I think about how crap I actually was, like I would wipe the floor with myself.
Which fight do you watch that you were like, all right, that was the turning point?
Nah, they're all like trying new things, trying different things, and it's just. I feel like the level is definitely changed from what it was. Like even the guys our gym coming through into contender series like Cam Ralston, Navajo Sterling, Aaron Toe, like these boys are they're completely well-rounded fighters. Their level is there. You have to come into the UFC now ready to compete with the elite of the division, and you have to be incredibly well-rounded, or it's a waste of time coming in altogether. I feel like 10 years ago, like I come in as just a forward pressure striker. You'd sink. You wouldn't even get into the UFC now. I feel like the level in the last 10 years has grown exponentially.
Just two more for me unrelated to this fight, but November 1st, they're going to implement those new rules with the 12-6 elbows.
Mate, I don't even follow the current rules, so like, they're not a concern. They're no concern to me, brother.
Obviously, I assume I know your pick for the main event, but how do you see that fight actually playing out between Israel and Dricus?
I'm usually chomping at Israel's heels and sparring, trying to piss him off, but I just stay away from the cob during this fight camp. He's just hitting like an absolute truck. I can't be bothered anymore.
Hi Dan, why did you throw a drink at a guy at a rugby game the other day?
Why didn't you ask us on the pub talk? We did a pub talk yesterday. You're gonna do it now.
I wanted you to have a crowd.
No, story time. Nah, so Kai invited me to watch our home team, the Warriors, and as you know, I'm a very passionate Warriors supporter. And there was another cob from the other team, the Parramatta Eels, and he was standing up there and he was rubbing it into the boys. The boys are getting pumped. I think we were 20 points down at before halftime, and every time they score, he's kind of rubbing it in. So I said, I'm going to start getting into this bloke. So we were absolutely spraying each other. It was like the most fun I've had the game in a long time. And then every time they scored, he was getting up. He was getting up and he was looking at me and he was going, "How you like that, Hangman? How you like that?" Usually, if you've seen me before, usually I throw my shoes at people, but I have my Timberlands boots on and I don't throw my Timberlands. That's one rule. That's why I strap them on. So yeah, I fired a drink at him, but he messaged me after and he's like, "I wanted to grab a picture with you. Where'd you go?" And I said, "Oh, Kai made me leave." So I had to, Kai made me go home. But no, I'll message him. I'll follow him on Instagram now. I said, we'll go to the next game together and we can just spray each other, sit next to each other.
It's a wonderful story.
You're down right here. You signed a new UFC contract before this fight, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you get everything you feel you wanted out of that?
Money, yeah. Heaps of it.
So I know you had like talked in some other interviews, like Ariel and stuff. You love bare knuckle. Maybe that would be in your future. Do you think that's kind of pushing this to the wayside? Do you think you're here till you're done fighting now?
At the end of the day, like the UFC's the big show, brother. Like you can go and fight anywhere else. Like regardless of the money, it's competing in the UFC, competing against the best guys is where I want to be. Like that will happen. I can fight bare knuckle when I'm 40, mate. That's my retirement plan.
Big fight, obviously, this weekend, Dan. But could we get UFC Auckland back in the headlines again? How much do you want to see that happen over the next year or two? Potentially with this win, another main event.
Oh, I think with a big win here, we'll be dragging another event back to Auckland. Pretty soon. Even though I said every time I fight in Auckland, I say I'm never going to fight in Auckland ever again, just because the amount of stress it puts on my life. But we need to drag it down for another show. It's been too long.
And Dan, a lot of people might not know, but when all the CKB boys come out, a lot of the time Izzy dips into his own pocket to fly a lot of them out. Do you do something similar?
Oh. Making me look bad, Cobb. I don't get paid anywhere near what Israel gets paid either, brother. But nah, like I'll pay for a few tickets. I'll get a few tickets out, brother.
Well, speaking of teammates you're close to, I mean, Aaron Toe, he's going to be on the Contender Series. You've been with him for a very, very long time. You were coaching him. He's now a teammate of yours. Can you speak about that relationship?
Yeah, I'm excited for like Contender Series is built for Aaron Toe. Like he's an action pack. You can't calm the kid down. So he goes out there and he looks to take the guy's head off. Much like myself, I think that's why we get along so well. But yeah, it's built for him to go out there and to get a finish. He'll be hunting it from the bell ringing.
And final one from me. After it's all said and done, obviously it's going to be a while with that new deal, but how does Dan Hooker want to be remembered in mixed martial arts?
No, I'm not too concerned about. you can't control how other people perceive you. You ask 1,000 different people who Dan Hooker is, you're gonna get 1,000 different answers.
Dan, I just got one right here. Right here, bro.
So I was like slowly trying to scan. Like, where's that?
I just kind of wanted your thoughts on Jaylen Turner's last performance, because like it seemed like when he was in there with you, you guys were like willing to fight to the death, and then he sort of makes the mistake when he fights Moicano about walking away. He knocks.
Yeah,
him
he's
down,
done a
he
few
walks
that.
away.
He's done that a few times. Yeah, like I definitely don't walk away when I like, what am I gonna knock the guy for having a heart? Like, yeah, he's just too nice.
Just one from me, Dan. So recently you mentioned that this fight's going to be exciting only because you're in it, and even Gamrot has said he knows he needs to fight an exciting fight. Do you think he's going to do that voluntarily and change his style, or you're going to have to force the matter?
God no. God no. Nah, like, yeah, I'm gonna make it exciting. That's why they put this fight together, because they're like, who can drag it out of him, and it's like, I'll press the action.
And you mentioned recently that the fighters that were lined up for you were more like Benil Dariush and BSD, and you wanted to fight in Perth, and now you're fighting Gamrot, who is the higher ranked fighter. That's like a masterstroke from you now, waiting and pushing the matter.
Genius, Cobb. Absolute genius.
Dan, just back here as well. 10 years doing anything is incredible. 10 years being a professional athlete is insane, especially there's ups, there's downs, there's wins where you get injured and you have to take time away. Over the course of those 10 years, and especially during lower moments, what keeps you going?
Nah, you just got a chip on your shoulder. You just got something to prove. You just don't wanna. You just know what you're finally capable of actually achieving. I think that's all it is. And then, yeah, you didn't come this far to come this far. You're gonna pull the handbrake up now. Nah, we're going till the wheels fall off, baby.
You mentioned about looking at yourself when you walked into the UFC, your style and your literal ability. But looking at that man's mentality compared to your mentality now 10 years later, what do you see and what would you have told yourself?
Oh, definitely would have told that kid to dream bigger. I never thought that, MMA in New Zealand and Australia and the UFC would grow to the level that it has grown to. Like, I didn't even know it was when I got in the UFC. Like, it would have been a few months before that I didn't even know that it was possible. For someone from New Zealand, training out of New Zealand, to get a UFC contract, to see how far it is now. We've had 3 UFC events in Auckland. We got a New Zealand champion. It's just wild how big it's grown. Like, I just never anticipated that.
Now, what is the big dream?
Yeah, the belt, because you get pay-per-view points and heaps of money.
Thank you very much.
Dan, longest layoff of your career coming into this fight. Obviously, the physical benefits of that are clear. But mentally, what has this done for you? Do you feel like it's kind of reignited a bit of your passion for the sport, a bit of your hunger?
Oh, yeah, just time away gives you, like, perspective, like, definitely, like, you appreciate it. You appreciate all these moments, but it's definitely, mate, you don't eat for a long time, you get hungry. Like, that's just, there's no real rocket science to that. So I just haven't eaten for a long time and I'm starving.
Yeah. Would this be the healthiest version of Dan Hooker we've seen in the octagon?
Oh, I am good, but that's blind luck. That's blind luck. You go into fights, some of them injured, some of them, there's always something going on behind the scenes. But I'm experienced enough to know that you actually don't know. You don't know till you wake up on the day and you get ready. Sometimes you feel like $1 million, sometimes you feel like dog shit, and I feel like I get my hand raised either way this weekend.
You mentioned that sexy number next to Gamrot's name.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, just how far towards the front of the queue do you think a win puts you.
Well, who else? Who else is there? There's the only other guys. Like you ain't getting a title shot off a loss. Like that's just, if you want to be next in line, you're gonna have to like what now? Arman's next in line. Who's after that? Like the title fight's booked. Arman is It's like who's after that, and it'll be the winner of this weekend is the next guy.
And just finally, congrats to you and your lovely wife on the imminent new arrival. I'm wondering what that's doing for your motivation levels heading into this one.
Yeah, that's a bit of a funny one, because you're like, you can't really say you're doing it for your wife and kids, because she couldn't care less whether you whether you fought in the UFC or not.
Dan, you were the last fight announced for UFC 305, and Izzy was pushing for you to be on the card. There was a lot of speculation about your opponent. I think Dricus Close was mentioned, Benel Dariush, and then Bobby Green. We saw how that went at UFC 304. He said he was willing to fly down to Perth to fight you. Then it landed on Gamrot. Was it hard for him to find you an opponent? I mean, what was the names being mentioned to you before landing on?
No, I didn't have a single name mentioned to me, brother. That's what my manager Ash is for. He takes care of all of that. I was just hell bent on being on this card. I said I'll fight any man on this card. Get me the best bloke to put his hands up. All of those, like, obviously people tag me and stuff, and then Close comes over, and I said I'll smash his head off. Dariush, I'll smash his head off too. Like, there's no man I would not fight on this date.
Didn't you say you were going to fight Charles here? Did you just make that up?
No, well, I was actually, they flew me over to do Vox shows. There's like a show they do, like the Vox Sports show, and we were like on the show, and then they asked if Volk had anything coming up, and he had to be like, nah, I got nothing coming up. And then they asked me, they're like, Dan, have you got anything coming up? And I didn't want to be boring, so I kind of just spun a bit of a yarn. I said, well, actually, I do have something to announce. Could see the UFC PR team having an absolute panic attack in the corner, but it worked out well. I think maybe the UFC saw how excited all the fans were to have me a part of this card, and so it might have worked in the end. Might have worked.
Was there any part of you that saw the excitement and then you were like, oh, maybe I will fight Charles in Perth?
Oh yeah. It sounds good to me. It sounds good to all of the fans. Why not?
Dan, to your right.
Gotcha.
Hey, just as a gym, obviously you got a few boys on this card. Have you spoken about like everyone like winning on the card and what that feeling would mean for the gym? Or is that like a bit of extra motivation for everyone individually?
Yeah, like you kind of just focus on your own role. Like we've done it before. We've had the 3 wins in the same night before. There was the big show in Melbourne. I think it was me, Brad Riddell, and Israel all getting our hand raised in Melbourne. So we know what that feeling feels like. You know what I mean? We know what's at stake. But this is fighting, brother. It's just teeters on the edge of a knife. It can go 1,000 different ways.
And previously, before, Israel said that Eugene carries a knife around during training. Is that true?
That's 100% true. That's 100% true.
Is that just
it does work. It does work. I definitely listen. I have learned that. If I've learned anything, is that if a man has a knife, I listen to what he's saying a lot more.
Do you think that's more effective than a taser?
I think so, because the taser will hurt for a bit. I feel like a knife will hurt for a lot longer.
Just unrelated, obviously you said you're a big Warriors fan. Can I just get your thoughts on the season? Obviously a bit disappointing, and then obviously
next year's our year, boys. Like there's no real stress about it. Next year's our year, lads.
Thank you.